between black boys, autism, and immunizations. This is not me. This is not conspiracy theory. This is coming from researchers from the Food and Drug Administration. Now you might ask, if that be the case, what can I do as a parent to keep my child from getting shots if they attend Detroit Public School?
Build your school, build your school.
It's coming, Queen Mother. She got the Holy Spirit tonight, the Black African Holy Ghost. I said. So what y'all need to know is all 50 United States have a medical exemption for public and charter school. If you can get your doctor to write a letter exempting your child from immunizations, that letter goes to the school secretary and life goes on as usual. All 50 states have medical exemption. 18 states have a personal family belief exemption. You need to do your research to see if Michigan is one of those states that has a personal family belief exemption. That means all you have to do is say, I don't agree with it. All you have to do is say, I don't trust white folks. Notarize it and give it to the secretary, and life goes on. The other 32 states allow for religious exemption. Some religions don't allow immunization. The church does, so you can't say I'm a born-again Christian so my children don't get shots, because they'll give them twice the shots now. So you might have to invent a religion so you don't have to immunize your child. So you have 3 outs: medical, religious, personal family belief. But you do not have to immunize your child, except Mississippi, West Virginia, and California. In Mississippi, West Virginia, and California, they only allow medical. So in Detroit, you have not only medical, but you have at least religious and possibly personal family belief. So you need to do your research. Now, let me give my 10 commandments for black parents. Commandment number 1, never go to the school by yourself. Mothers, take somebody with you. Fathers, take somebody with you. Y'all have to learn to stop going alone, because you need a witness to the crime. You need someone who can testify on your behalf to exactly what was said about you and your child during that meeting. Too often we go to school meetings alone because we fail to recognize that the public school system is an extension of the mass incarceration system. It's a criminal enterprise. And when a mother goes to the Detroit public school alone with no witness, they will bully you, harass you, intimidate you, threaten you, forge your name, disrespect you. So you gotta have backup, because they'll bring 20 white folks in for one black mother. For one conversation about little Raheem, they brought the principal and the principal intern and the vice principal and the dean of students and the counselor and the nurse and the social worker and the psychologist, school security, basketball coach, lunchroom assistant, window cleaner, for one black mother. Because they want to control the balance of power. So you always take someone with you. And if you want, take 2 or 3 people with you. It doesn't have to be one. The more, the better. My family was visiting for Christmas. All 6 sisters, all 6 brothers, grandma and grandpa, and they wanted to come with us. And the white folks will say, well, I didn't know you were bringing so many people. And you will say, I didn't know you were bringing so many people. White folks don't operate well when there's a lot of us. They operate very well when there's only one of us. So stop going alone. Black father, the quickest way for you to get A restraining order from the public school is to go by yourself. The first time you raise your voice at that white teacher, she's going to say she felt threatened for her safety. You're going to be arrested. You'll get a restraining order in 2 weeks, and you'll never be allowed back into the school, even for graduation or report card pickup. Don't go alone. Rule number 2, stop telling the schools all your personal business. Black mothers, stop looking for sympathy from white teachers. Let me say it again. Black mothers, stop looking for sympathy from white teachers. They are not your friends. Let's be clear about something. The number one problem of black males in America is the white teacher and the white police officer. Let me say it one more time. The number one problem for black men in Detroit, black boys, is his white teacher and the white police officer. She makes a living setting him up for jail, and her husband makes a living locking him into the jail. She makes $50,000 on miseducation, and he makes $50,000 on mass incarceration, and they can live out in the Detroit suburb off the marginalization of your children. Let me give you a scenario of how this works. You walk into the school and you say, listen, Miss Slurbanowski, I just started a new job. My youngest son's father is in jail. My second youngest son's father, he was murdered, God forbid. I'm raising 3 kids on my own. I'm living in my mother's house. One room, I'm trying to get my life on track because I'm doing it alone. And I need y'all to stop calling me for everything he does. I cannot keep coming up here to take him out of school early because y'all can't handle him. I know it's not all y'all fault. He's going through something. His daddy's in jail. But can you please work with me? And Miss Slurbanowski going to look up at you and give you what you're looking for, false white sympathy. And she's going to say to you, oh, Miss Shaquita, I didn't realize black mothers had it so hard. Your story is so commanding, it almost makes me want to tear up. In fact, I really admire your strength as a mother. I don't know if I could do that. In fact, please forgive me, but you're my hero. And you think you won your son's teacher over. She gave you a hug. Y'all even prayed the white Jesus together before you left. And guess what happened right after you left? She ran down to Principal Silverstein in the main office and just told Principal Silverstein that that woman is sleeping in a 1-bedroom home with 3 children. She's living off of her mother. She just started a new job. She's the only parent. I think for the sake of the children, we should call Detroit Child Protective Services so they can come and do an investigation on whether or not the house is fit for those babies. Now here's what I don't understand about white folks. They can care about our children whenever we're the perpetrators of the abuse. They don't hesitate to call when you're the perpetrator. But when one of them is the perpetrator, you never get a phone call. In fact, I would say, family, that child abuse occurs more in the schoolhouse than it does in your house. I've seen teachers destroy the self-respect and self-esteem and self-concept of black children on site. I've seen it, but I've never seen a teacher charged with child abuse. So don't go alone. Don't tell your business. Single mothers, I know that you're a strong black mother, but don't go boasting about that to the school system. They'll use it against you. Because you love to say, I'm all my sons need. But don't tell white folks that. You want them to think you got a man in the house even if you don't. I'm serious. And if they say, why have we never seen the father? He might have been locked up for 10 years, but you'll say he's an overnight truck driver. He sleeps during the daytime. Don't ever tell all your business. The teachers are the new police officers. The principals are the new wardens. And what you say, just like in jail, in court, can and will be used against you and your children. Number 3, don't sign any paperwork, Detroit black family. Sign nothing until you take it home and read it first. I don't care if it's one sentence. Let me tell you what they don't do to white parents. They don't expect them to sign on the run. I work in white schools. They will never stop a white parent going out the door and say, could you sign this on your way out? It's actually an insult. But you don't know because you don't see how they treat white folks. Everything goes in an envelope, it goes home, and they get at least 72 hours to return it. But they want you to stop and sign on site. The assumption is you don't give a damn anyway. So you take it home. Even if it says, this is a permission slip for Raynisha to go to the zoo tomorrow. And you say, I gotta take it home. And they say, well, we don't understand why it's a permission slip because y'all like to lie a lot. And I need to read this 2 or 3 times because when you're dealing with white folks, what it look like it say in the schoolhouse, in my house, it might, the words might change. That's number 3. Number 4, parents, instruct your children to bring home every grade they get, homework, tests, pop quiz, keep a folder of all earned grades. Why? Because if you have to challenge your son or daughter's grades at the end of the report card period, you will have the data to do that. Many of you see grades that you know are lower than what your child earned. And what you don't know is it is illegal. What you don't know is it is illegal. What you don't know, it is illegal in these United States to reduce a grade on the report card due to behavior alone. But I bet you in Detroit, I'm willing to bet you your son should have got an A, but Miss Cracker gave him a B because he couldn't sit still. I'm willing to bet your daughter should have got a B, but Miss Cracker gave her a C because she had a nasty attitude. Well, that's why most report cards give you an academic grade and a behavior number, because you cannot change the academic grade based on behavioral performance. Do they do it? Yes. Why? Because they know you're not keeping up with the paperwork. Remember, having a lazy black parent is like having none at all. Remember that the worst curse for a black child in Michigan is to have a teacher who don't care and a black parent who couldn't care less. Number 5. Don't get your child evaluated for special education unless you believe something is wrong. I don't care what the teacher believes. I don't care what the principal said. You are the mother. You carried this baby in utero for 9 months. No one knows him better than you. Why would you let a white person talk you out of what you know to be true about your children? Say that. Well, they said they just wanted to see. But do you think he had a reading disability? Well, I think he can't read because last year the teacher went out on maternity leave in January and my son had 16 substitutes from January to June, and the year before that he got suspended so much I don't even know how many days he was in class to learn. In the year before that he had a first-year teacher straight out of University of Michigan, could barely read a damn self. So no, Dr. Johnson, I don't really think it was a reading disability. So why did you let him get evaluated? I need y'all to understand something. You have a right to say no. Why do you keep saying yes? We think he got a reading problem. How can he have a reading disability at 6 years old? He just started learning how to read. What's wrong with y'all? A 2nd grader with a math disability? What's wrong with y'all? Kindergarten with ADHD? What's wrong with y'all? every child is ADHD in kindergarten, Detroit. Half of you ADHD right now. Number 6, never get them evaluated for ADHD. Number 6, never get them evaluated for ADHD. Number 6, never get them evaluated for ADHD. Why not, Dr. Johnson? Because once the doctor gives them the label, you have just given them the key. You have just empowered them with the ability to get child protective services to force you to medicate your child, or they will take them from you. 2015, the #1 fastest growing reason for the removal of black children from the black household was failure to medicate. They are taking your children away from you because you're not giving them the dope. And let me be clear, the Ritalin is no different than the crack. Let's be clear, the Adderall is no different than the speed. The same drug that sent your son's father to jail, the same drug that sent your son's father to jail for 5 years, they will change the name from crack to Concerta and give it to little Raheem so he can sit still long enough to be miseducated by lazy-ass white females.
Yeah, yes they are.
Since when do you need medication to get an education? First of all, you're not even teaching them. And most of the black boys diagnosed with ADHD are really mentally gifted, but you don't want to admit that. See, in Michigan, y'all no longer have a gifted law, from what I understand. Your legislature removed it, so you can't get kids diagnosed and gifted necessarily unless the district has their own. But you can still get them diagnosed on your own outside of school. And the truth of the matter is, for many of our boys who can't sit still, it's not a matter of hyperactivity, it's a matter of boredom. And the teacher tells you, well, math block is 90 minutes. I need him to sit still for 90 minutes. But what does the neurological science say? The neurological science say that every 45 minutes a child needs a break. So why is he being expected to sit still for 90 minutes when the science says you only teach a child 45 minutes at a pop? And then you gotta let the brain disengage and re-engage. There's a new movement now. They want extended school year. They want the kids to stay at school longer and then have a longer school year beyond 180 days. What do you say to that, Dr. Johnson? I say it's a waste of time. Because I know beyond 4 hours a day, most kids are mentally exhausted. Those extra 3 days are those extra 3 hours are only there to put more money in the white teacher's paycheck. Oh, I know what's going on. This ain't about helping black kids. It's about stuffing that paycheck. Yes. Don't you find it odd that the same teachers who miseducate in the day are the same ones providing the academic support after school? Wait a minute now. You're the same teacher who said my son was reading disabled. You're the same one who said you don't think he can learn without special ed. So why are you responsible for proving yourself wrong after school? Next, black parents, for those of you who do have children in special ed, for those of you who do have children in special ed, if you do not believe special ed is benefiting your child, then you can take Detroit public schools to what's called due process with the State Department of Education. And you can make them pay for your special ed child to go to private school for free. This is the federal law. If a school district fails to educate a disabled child, whether he's deaf, blind, autistic, reading disabled, math disabled, emotionally disturbed, speech and language, brain injury, developmental delay, orthopedic impairment, whatever the classification, If your son been in special ed 5 years and still can't read, I think it's time for due process. I think it's time for you to get a free education off the public dollar. White folks do it all the time. They do it all the time. If you don't want your child in special ed anymore, all you have to do is call an IEP meeting and say, exit my son, give me the paperwork. They can challenge you, but few school districts will challenge a parent who wants to remove their kid from special ed. The power is in your hands. If you don't agree with the evaluation, you have a right to a second opinion. You find the psychologist and they must conduct the evaluation. You're always in control. But what I need y'all to understand is that the learning disability is an opinion, not a fact. What do you think happens when your son comes into my office? What do you think happens when your daughter comes into my office and I shut the door? I give them the IQ test. I give them an achievement test. I give them an emotional assessment. I give them a psychological screener. I observe them in class. I interview you. I interview the teacher. I look at the previous evaluations. And based on what I see, I make an educated guess. I make an educated guess as to whether or not I think they might be learning disabled. Can I prove it? No. There's no blood test, no CAT scan, no MRI, no X-ray that can prove a learning disability. The same thing for ADHD, same thing for ODD, same thing for conduct disorder. They were made up by the Wall Street drug companies to make $30 billion a year off of black parents who can't teach their sons how to sit still. And let me be clear. The black boy's problem is not learning. He loves to learn, trust me. Our boys love to learn. You see how your son looked the first day of school? You ever see the kindergarten black boy when he's 5 and 6? He woke before you, mommy, let's go. First grade, mommy, let's go. Second grade, mommy, can we go in early? Third grade, come on, mama. Fourth grade, mama, can I stay home? What happened? Why in the 4th and 5th grade he decided he didn't want to go? Because the verbal abuse that he took from Miss Slurbanowski for 4 years is beginning to eat away at his love for education. The black boy is not a problem. The problem is he is expected to act like a black girl. And when a boy cannot act like a girl, he's considered disordered. Because 93% of all teachers are female. And when fatherless boys are forced to be taught by females, there's a disconnect and a discrimination. Black boys suffer double jeopardy. First, you're mistreated because you're black, and then you're mistreated again because you're a male. In other words, the schools are blackmailing our boys. These are the facts. Parents, once every 3 years, make sure you request a complete copy of your son or daughter's academic record once every 3 years. Why? Because things go into the record that you never see. And then one day you decide you're going to transfer Raheem from school A to school B, straight A's and B's, and you get a letter saying he was denied. And then you find out later he was denied because they saw a certain pink slip that didn't look too well. Made your son look like a criminal or an animal. Had you caught it, you could have challenged it. There's a law, parents, known as the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act of 1974. It gives you a complete copy to everything with your child's name on it in the school building. When's the last time you got a copy of his record? Do you know teachers put stuff in there all day long? You don't know what's in your baby's record, and it's time for you to get a copy of it. I want to transition now. And I want to talk about racism for a minute, because although we suffered from racism more than any other people, I think we understand it the least. What are the 3 main laws of white supremacy? Law number 1, Detroit: all white people are racist. And I'm not being disrespectful to our visitors. You're more than welcome to be here tonight. Maybe you use the information and help somebody. I doubt it, but you might. All white people are racist. Everyone. Rich, poor, upper class, low class, the Muslim, Christian, Italian, Jew, all of them. But why you have such a problem understanding this, black folks? The reason we have a problem accepting the reality that all white folks are racist is because we keep on equating racism with racial hatred. We keep on equating racism with animosity. In order for a white person to be a racist, he gotta hate black people. I disagree. Racism has nothing to do with attitude. Racism has nothing to do with anger. Racism has nothing to do with hatred. You can be angry at blacks, you can hate, you can have animosity, but racism is about two things that have nothing to do with emotion. Power and privilege. This is why you don't understand white folks. You say, Dr. Umar, how can you say all white folks are racist? Do you know that it was a white woman who helped me find my job? Do you know it was a white man who helped get my son out of jail? Do you not know it was a white person who saved my baby's life? That's no contradiction to what I'm saying. Well, why ain't it? Because every white person you just named only helped one black person. White people are allowed to help individual blacks. That's never a problem with racism. But what they will never do is change something systemically that eats away at the advantage they have over you. That means black man who loves white girl. And I know some of you in here, because you write me dirty emails talking about you don't understand why you having a white woman got anything to do with your participation in the freedom struggle. So let me help you understand this. And not just the white woman, because some of y'all done went Chinese on me. Some of y'all done went Arab on me. Some of y'all done went East Indian. And some of y'all done did this new thing, it's the Mediterranean look where you don't know what race she is. When you marry a white woman, you don't just marry her, you marry her family. You don't just marry the family, you marry the community. You don't just become part of a community, you marry her race. Everything good about it and not so good. In other words, by committing yourself to her, you commit yourself to racism itself. And no man, like Jesus said, can serve two masters. You will love one and hate the other, or shun one and cling to the other. But most importantly, women live longer than men do. Marriage is about business. You don't believe me? What are the two biggest reasons for divorce? Say it again. Money and sex. You materialistic Negroes. Money and sex. Get my money and light my fire. Talking about you spiritual. You ain't getting divorced over no spiritual deficiencies. You trying to get your cookies baked. I'm so spiritual. Whatever. In the daytime, maybe. So if I marry a white woman, I'm going to probably leave this earth before her. That means my estate, my retirement, my pension, my earnings, my wealth, all transfers to white folks. How do you take from us who has so little and give to another people who've already stolen so much? I don't hate the white woman. I hate the fact that you couldn't find a black one. And then you make excuses. Black women too hard-headed. They gold diggers. I ain't never see a black woman get the type of money that Tiger Woods' white ex-wife got. I ain't never seen a judge be that lenient with a sister than I've seen him be with a white woman. You got more to fear from marrying her and getting a divorce than ever being with a sister. But the truth of the matter is, you just need to admit the fact that you have an inferiority complex. You feel inadequate compared to white males. And the best way for you to achieve a degree of psychological equality is to wife his woman. And in the process, commit your own form of racial extermination by seeing to it that your children have a little bit more of the master's DNA than you do. If the African-American woman is too much for you, brother, go get one from the Caribbean. I just came from there. Trust me, they single. If you think the Caribbean is too hard-headed, go to Canada. If you don't want a sister with a French accent up in Canada, go to the UK and get one with a British accent. You don't like that, you can go straight to the motherland. Every color you want. Butter almond, butter pecan, fudge, caramel, sweet brown sugar, chocolate! The darker the berry, better. So there's no excuses because black women are the largest population on the earth. There's more black women than anything else. We have too much to choose from to go outside. But I will say, sisters, you have to stop beating brothers up with your education and income because we tired of hearing it. Your man don't need to hear every day that you could have bought it for yourself. He don't need to hear every day, I can do it by myself. Because if you keep on reminding him that, he's going to leave you there by yourself. The white man knew what he was doing when he started over-educating black women and under-educating us. This was by design. Don't blame the sister. It ain't her fault she's the only woman in America that out-earns and out-educates her man. You know why they did that? Because they want to get black women to join the media propaganda war that says all black men ain't ish. Sister, don't fall for that. And don't let these white women draft you into the feminist movement. Okay. I need you to stay clear of that. We don't need that. And what I find as a therapist is a lot of my feminist sisters, and I love you too, a lot of you have been hurt and abused through relationships and fatherlessness and sexual abuse, and you're trying to heal yourself by becoming opposed to black men. And that cannot work because God made us for each other. Show me a woman who says, I don't need a man. I'll show you a woman who don't need God either. You cannot exist without the other half. It's as true as it is for me as it is of you. Which is why when I have conversations with my lesbian sisters, respectful conversations, I joke with them sometimes. I said, you know why you still lesbian? Why? Because you ain't found the right alpha male yet. But when the white one comes, your ass will be percolating. I promise you that. Some of y'all seen it before. Sister lesbian, but the right brother walk in that room and she's... Come on. We know our nature, and we can't let white folks come into Detroit and tell you what a family is. One of my issues with Obama is because before Barack Obama 8 years ago, homosexuality wasn't a normal family system in our community.
Okay.
Here we are 8 years later. That man has totally transformed black family culture in a way that is not advantageous for us. Obama was made president to sexually confuse our babies. That's why he was made president. Because if he was white and tried to homosexualize Detroit, you wouldn't have fell for it. If George Bush tried to homosexualize black America, he could have never got away with it. If George Bush let Trayvon Martin get murdered and Zimmerman get out, he could have never got away with that. Only because Obama was black could white folks do what they wanted to do with us. I don't blame Obama because to his credit, he never claimed to be for you. The problem is you took your immature Christ complex and you transposed it on an unwilling recipient. And you went to sleep for 8 long years. And now Trump is here with the alarm clock. And he gonna wake your black bottoms up. Al Sharpton about to march on D.C., y'all, January 14th. Al Sharpton is back.
Oh, I'm dead.
Where the hell you been for 8 years? You gonna march on Trump, but you ain't march on Obama? Listen, what is the job of the black leader in the 21st century? The job of the black leader in the 21st century is to broker deals with the power structure that gives you the illusion of inclusion. They don't give you real change, they give you superficial change. So Dr. Johnson, what do you mean between real and superficial? I mean that they will give you a black person in the high office, but that black person don't have the ability to do what needs to be done for you while they're in that office. Which is why I've always told you, me and Minister Melisha Baz had this conversation, I'm not crazy about black elected officials. I don't mind them, but I'm not crazy about them because as long as their campaigns are financed by the white Democratic Party of Michigan, as long as their campaigns are financed by the white Democratic Party of Michigan, guess whose agenda they're going to carry out after they get elected? The white Democratic Party of Michigan. If you want black power, you got to finance black politicians out of your pocket. See, I'm tired of black people talking about, what do we do? What do we do? Where do we start? You know what you need to do, and you know where to start, but you don't want the truth. You want to be lied to, and so you are. You want people to tell you you can march your way out of this. You want people to tell you you can pray your way out of this. You want people to tell you you can vote your way out of this. You want people to tell you you can sympathize your way out of this. The only way you're going to get free is doing what everybody else did to get free. See, you got 3 psychological issues we talked about yesterday on Minister's Show. Let me tell you what keep black folks where we are. 3 psychological hang-ups. Number 1, you're overly dependent on God to solve your problems. Can I be honest? Can I please be honest? Let me tell you why I consider us to be a mentally ill people. Who do you know got $1.5 trillion at their disposal? Will go out and buy sneakers, cars, hair, rims, Jordans, and then go home and pray to God for a better life. I've never seen nothing like it. In fact, I think the white man deserves an award. The white man deserves one award for the greatest invention of the modern times. And do you know what that is? The Negro. You're the only living, breathing organism on the face of earth that works against your own best interest without having to be paid to do so. You will self-destruct without instructions. Your self-hate is so deep that you can't even see it no more. It's normalized. Our problem ain't our problem. Our problem is getting the rest of you committed enough to implement the solution for it. Your problem is you got an identity crisis. That's right. You know why you don't feel guilty about spending all your money with whites and Chinese and Arabs? Because your identity has been forged separately from your cultural reality. You're the only people in America whose identity has nothing to do with culture. The white man took your culture and gave you religion.
Yeah, hello.
Listen, I didn't say there's anything wrong with being a Christian. But being African who's a Christian. Nothing wrong with you being a Muslim. But being an African who happens to be a Muslim. But the problem with you all is you love to tell people that I don't see color. I'm just a human being. I am a child of the Most High. And because you only see yourself as a child of the Most High and not a child of Africa, because you're only a child of the Most High, your people end up being the most low. God made you an African. You chose everything else thereafter. And until we begin to rally around what we are, we'll never change it. Stop thinking you can blend in. You cannot blend in. When you walk up the street, nobody calls you an American but yourself. And it's getting worse because now it ain't just black versus white. The white man in multiculturalized Detroit, so now it looks like you just a troublemaker because nobody got problems in Detroit except black folks. But they don't ever tell you why. You know why you're the one making the problems? Because the Arab had a line of credit when he showed up from Dubai.
Yes. Yes, he did.
You know why you troublemaking? Because if the Arab ain't got that line of credit from the Bank of Dubai, he'll damn sure get it from the Bank of America in Detroit.
Yeah.
When the Chinese got in, he showed up $2 million line of credit, Bank of China. And if he didn't, he can get it from Wells Fargo. But when you show up, sorry, you don't have the credit. He just got here. He don't even have a damn credit score. Have you noticed, Detroit, that they love to give you a student loan? They love to give you a home loan. They love to give you a car loan.
Yeah.
But they hate to give you a business loan. Why is it you can finance my student loan for $150,000? No problem. My mortgage, $120,000, no problem. My Mercedes, $70,000, no problem. Small business, $40,000, problem.
We got a problem.
You know why? Because when they pay for your child's education, they are investing in their long-term debt.
Yes.
When they gave you that Mercedes loan, so when you drove it off the lot, it depreciated several thousand.
Immediately.
When they gave you the home loan, they gave it to you with a variable mortgage. And they know how much you make. So when they're ready to move you out, they flip it up a few percentages beyond your ability to pay. And now you foreclose. So check it out. You was 80,000 in, 60 to go, and you had to foreclose, and they'll take that same house from you, give it to another black person, and do the same thing again. And in 20 years, they'll still own the house, but they would have gotten enough money from us to build 30 of them. We got to figure out the wealth game, black folks. The only game we understand is labor. I got 3 jobs. I got 4 jobs. It ain't about working harder, it's about working smarter. Start saving half of your money and invest it. We need black revolutionary investment clubs, not Wall Street, but Detroit Central. We need an investment club for a supermarket. We need an investment club for a gas station. We need an investment club for a black Detroit hospital where every doctor and every nurse is black. We need an investment club. We will open up our own factory in Detroit. We need an investment club for everything, black folks. But how are we going to invest if y'all spending $4 billion on Christmas every year in Detroit? Your Christmas bill in Detroit was $4 billion! And you ain't got no infrastructure, but you got a lot of gifts. I know why you shop till you drop. Because when you shop, your brain releases endorphins that are extremely powerful and intoxicating. And when you shop, you get a shopper's high. I know they like, oh my God, that is so true. You get a shopper's high. And then when you get home and look at them damn receipts, you get a shopper's depression. In other words, you got buyer's bipolar. Happy when you're shopping and depressed when you're home. Buyer's bipolar disorder. $600 million on McDonald's last year. Are you kidding me? Black America, $600 million on McDonald's last year. $2 billion on Air Jordans, $9 billion on perm and weave. We spend more on perm and weave than Air Jordans. You know that's a damn problem. Because we don't like nothing more than Michael Jordan. We spend more perm money than McDonald's. And you know I love a damn double fish fillet with cheese.
I'm dead.
Shamrock shake.
I think I'm on nerves.
2 apple pies for $1, don't hate. And brothers, we can't knock the sisters for the perm. Perm is the black man's fault. You damn right I said. Perm is the black man's fault. There's not a woman in this audience who would not be natural if she knew you would still love her with her own hair. We in the house of the Lord. God is my witness. I got a text message today. I don't know where the sister was from, but I got a text message today. She said, Doc, because of you, I wake again. If we let them know we love them, they'll get hurt. And brothers, listen, you got to make your queen go natural sooner than later. Because once she get that scalp burn, you're going to have to cover it up with a tattoo. I'm telling you, the sisters, you got to stop lying to brothers. They go out with your hair all nice. He ain't see that it was a big patch missing in the back. The new growth got snatched out by the relaxer. Before I get married, I got to feel her whole head for holes and scalp burns. I used to cut hair, so I know. On the top, y'all be looking good, and then like a half Kojak with a Bobby Brown or something. But yes, brothers, we can convince the sisters to go natural. It's all up to us. If brothers say, listen, we've had enough, trust me, they'll go natural. And that's $9 billion extra we got. Second rule of racism is white people don't share power with black folks. I need to say that again. White people don't share power with black folks. So when they say we're working on a new Detroit, that's all I've been seeing the past 2 days. There's a new Detroit. You know what that means? That means it's a Detroit without you. So we need to find what section of this city we're going to keep and hold it. Thanks to Minister Malik and family, I'm going to be back in Detroit January 19th and 20th. We finally can go into. We got $700,000 with the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. $700,000. I'm hoping we can strike it there where the Detroit public schools might say, listen, pick whichever one you want, give us $100 grand. Or even if they say, give us $200 grand, I can live. Give me $250, we good. We can get the rehab done. I need some of y'all brothers who know how to rehab, sisters too. Plumbers, electricians. I don't need no jack legs, damn it. Know what you doing. I don't want the lights going off when I open the refrigerator. You flush the toilet and the Christmas tree light up. I'm not looking for that. I need certifications and licenses. Now, Detroit get cold in the winter, and I don't really like the cold, but I love Detroit enough, I'll put up with the cold. You understand? And the third rule of racism is white folks will do anything to achieve their goal. And what is their goal for black folks? It ain't oppression no more. It ain't suppression. It ain't repression. It ain't marginalization. The new goal for Detroit blacks is extermination. Prison or cemetery, choose. And the only way we're going to reverse that is if we do something about it. In other words, until you hate racism more than each other. Until you hate racism more than each other, nothing changes. Until you love black progress more than empire and housewives, nothing will change. What if all the black women in Detroit got together and say, hey ladies, how much you spend on hair? How much you spending? They put all that together and we got $2 billion and black women could just put the Korean hair care industry on strike and rebuild the whole world. Would you love each other enough? Some of you can't wait to send your children to college. I need you to think twice about it.
Yeah.
College is a setup. Did you hear me? College is a setup. I'm going to say it again. College is a setup. Now, don't let me clarify, because some of y'all going to say this nigga got 6 degrees telling me my child can't get 1. Let me clarify. I went to college in 1992 as a freshman. That's 25 years ago. College still meant something when I was there. Today, what does it mean? Raise your hand if you owe student loans. Look around. Look around. Look around. You would think they're giving out cheese. Look around. You can put them down now. And I'm willing to bet that nearly everybody who raised their hand do not work in a career that's even remotely related to the field you got your degree in. So let me ask you a question. If you went back to higher education, why are you in such a rush to do the same thing to your children? We got 2 million African Americans in America with masters and doctorates who cannot find work. I'm getting resumes from lawyers. Lawyers cannot find a job. You send your child to the University of Michigan, Iowa State, University of Pennsylvania, Cincinnati University, and they come back with a PhD in earthworm technology. Your daughter was the valedictorian magna cum laude, top of the class, on how earthworms get their twerk on. Can I ask you a question? Even though she was at the top of the class, even though she got a doctorate, even though she was magna, is there a job waiting for her in Detroit anyway? Do you not know that every college offers over 100 degrees, but only 30 are relevant? You don't send your child off to college and you don't guide their decisions.
Right.
No, baby, what you thinking about majoring in? Well, you know, I really love European medieval art. Well, guess what, you bougie black child? You can study European medieval art, but you can do that at the public library. But you ain't spending $30,000 of my money to look at naked white men and statues. Make sure your child is majoring in something relevant. Your son got a master's in black community organization. And all the teachers were white. Your daughter got a liberal arts degree. Really, baby? Liberal arts? You're going to be so liberal, you won't even be able to find a job. You'll be liberated from working. Let me tell you how they destroyed Detroit in 4 steps. Let me tell you how they made the ghetto in 4 steps. Let me tell you how they made a black underclass in Motown in 4 steps. 1970, de-industrialize your high schools. Beginning in 1970, they came into Motown, they came into Philadelphia, they came into Brooklyn, they came into Los Angeles, they came into Baltimore, and they start taking out the plumbing program. They start taking about the electricians program, the carpentry program, the chefing programs. And they brought in college prep. And nobody told you that college prep was nothing more than prison prep.
Yes.
We walked off the blue collar jobs. We told our kids, you ain't working in the streets, you ain't getting dirty. I want my son to wear a suit and a tie. But you fail to realize that brothers and sisters who get their hands dirty can sometimes make more money than those of us who wear the suits and the tie. And so now when you go around Detroit, who's getting the contracts to build all these new buildings for the new Detroit? Mexicans, Chinese, Irish, and Italians. Because you told your kids that that's stuff that underclass people do. But every doctor works in an office that was built by tradesmen. Every day I go to work in an office built by tradesmen. If there's any fight you need with the public school, it's a fight to make our sons and daughters educated with manual, practical skills, because you cannot eat from philosophy. They de-industrialized, and then they did what? Chemicalize you crack, 80s boom. Then they came up with the welfare programs back in the 60s, but then they refined them in the 90s and said, well, if your son got a felony, he cannot stay in your home. And if we catch him in the home, even though he ain't selling dope no more, we're going to evict you from your Section 8 public housing. Swelling homelessness up. And then Clinton came in with the 3 strikes and you're out. Your first black president, Obama was the second. Clinton came with 3 strikes and you out. Mandatory minimum sentences for non-violent drug-related offenses. And some of y'all celebrating Obama because Obama just signed an executive order to commute the sentences of a lot of, not black folks, this was not for blacks, it was for Americans. And so he let a couple thousand out, y'all start clapping. They called me up, Dr. Johnson, what do you think? Because you're very critical of the president. He just let a whole bunch of black folks out of jail early. I said, I'm not impressed with that. Well, why not? Let me tell you why. Because it was not systemic. Obama changed nothing about the criminal justice system that incarcerates black men in the first place. Well, what do you mean? Let me tell you what I mean. Every last one of those brothers who got out on the Obama commutation will be back next year if there's nothing in the streets to help them with. If you teach a man to fish, he can feed himself for the rest of his life. But if you only make him a fish, he'll eat for one day. Listen, y'all. Detroit, you got to get politically wise. Do not look for one-shot deals as a source of progress. You need systematic change. They say, well, we're about to open up a charter school in Detroit. First of all, you're doing that for white folks, not for us, because charter schools is how they pushing black folks out. Y'all better watch you opening up your charter schools. And speaking of charter schools, Miss Betsy DeVos is from Michigan. Donald Trump's new education queen. And she's going to charterize the whole black America, and she's pro-choice. Now, some of y'all in here pro-choice too. You say, Dr. Johnson, if the public school will give me $5,000 to pay for my kid to go to a private school, why would you hate on that? You know why I'm going to hate on that? Because you think about yourself and other parents who can afford to pay the difference. But what about the black mothers in Detroit with 5 kids? You give her $5,000 for each of those kids, and it's a $12,000 tuition. Where's she going to get the other 7? Only bourgeois parents can benefit from a voucher system. I'm not looking for no voucher. I'm looking for something that's going to systematically help black children. You got to look for the systemic. But the reason you don't pay attention to the systemic is because you're only interested in what benefits you. You more selfish than a European has ever been. In fact, you can do him better than he can do him.
Thank you.
You are a master mannequin.
I'll stand up.
And you teach your children to be the ultimate imposters as well. Think about it. We raise our kids to do what? Think about it. You raise them to imitate whites as a strategy for success. Just go to school so you can get a good job and get away from these MFers. You know what you tell them? Listen to this. You ain't telling your kids that you're going to fight for black folks and you're going to stay loyal to the hood and you ain't going to move out of it until you do something for it. You don't tell them that. A couple of you do. Most of you don't. Black kids ain't raised like Chinese kids. They raised as a group. European Jews, group. Black folks, individuals. And the reason you love being an individual because you want no reference or reminder that you are African in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And as a Pan-Africanist, I laugh at us because I know that the only way we fix this is by rallying behind our racial heritage. Your color is the criteria by which you determine who you will consult with. If a Chinese is working and he's hungry, he's not going to buy from you. He can be freezing cold in the middle of a Detroit winter and he will go hungry until he comes across another Chinese to buy from. Because his cultural commitment is so strong. The European Jew cultural commitment is so strong. The Italians cultural commitment is so strong, but you have none. 7 cents of every black dollar stays in Detroit. The other 93 goes to empower your oppressors even more. And the black church, not this one, but the other ones, the black church must be held accountable for the fact that they take too much from us and have done very little to return our investment in them. If the church is a business, and it is, every Sunday that collection is taken, that is an investment in that church. Where is our return? I'm not talking religious doctrine, I'm talking religious politics. All these mega churches in Detroit, all these mega churches, but you don't have a school for our children. All these mega churches, you ain't got a supermarket. All these mega churches, you ain't got a hospital for our aging elders. How can you claim to be doing God's word, but you comfortable with your congregation living in the devil's den? I love religion. I love the Bible. I love the Quran. But I hate when we use them to justify our lack of progress. See, the pastor, some of them, not the ones here, run game on black folks. You will go to church on Sunday, that's in 48 hours. You will say, Pastor, I came from the Dr. Umar lecture. Pastor, we need black power. I don't want to pray today. We need black power. And the pastor gonna say, you looking for power, huh? That's what you telling me, some black power stuff? You was with that Umar guy on there? He gonna go to his Bible. He gonna turn and say, let me tell you what my Lord says about power. The Lord says, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. But Pastor, we ain't got no money, we broke, no stores, 75% of Detroit teenagers unemployed. Come on, Pastor, you have to admit, we got to do something. You want money, okay. Here we go. The Lord said, blessed are the poor, for they shall inherit the kingdom of God. But Pastor Dr. Umar said black people only own 1/2% of all the wealth in America, and that our ownership of the wealth of America hasn't even changed 1 percentage point since 1865 when freedom came 150 years later, and we still only own 1/2 of 1% of America's wealth. Wealth? Okay. A camel will go through the eye of a needle before a rich man will enter the kingdom of God. Well, what about police brutality? Trayvon and Sandra and Michael and Eric and Philando, Tamir, Pastor, Ayana. What about police brutality? Police violence? Okay. You worried about us getting beat on? Lord don't care about that, no. Right here. If a man should spite you on one cheek, you should turn and give him the other also. Everything we need to do as a people to get up and stand up, you're told it's a sin in church. So what is the purpose of religion in Black Detroit? Do you know what the purpose of religion is? Not this church. The purpose of religion is to make black people feel blessed while being broke. The purpose of religion is to make you feel like you have it all when you have nothing. The purpose of religion is to take your mind away from the things that matter in this life and worry about what happens in the afterlife. So I say to you, respectfully, that any religion that tells me I have to die in order to experience heaven, while the Chinese has his right here, and while the Chinese has his right here, is a religion I don't need. My religion is black power and is African redemption. Isn't it amazing that we're the only people in America who got to go one place to pray and another to help ourselves? Chinese can pray in a Chinese church and then have a conversation on how they're going to open up 10 more filthy stop and goes in the middle of your hood. European Jews can go to the synagogue and talk about how they're going to finance the new Detroit without black folks in it. You're the only people who got to leave the house of God in order to do work for God's children. That means your religion ain't holy. Because in order for religion to be holy, it has to cater to all the problems of your reality. To be holy, you got to hold me down. And let's just face it, a lot of sisters wouldn't even be going to church as much as you do if you had a husband. Can we be honest? The quickest way to get out the church is to get a wife up. That's right. Have church is a single woman's haven. And the pastor is the symbolic husband for them all. Sometimes it's metaphorical, and sometimes it's very practical. I want to talk about Willie Lynch for a minute if I can. And then I'll begin to wrap it up. Willie Lynch came to America to teach the slave masters how to control black folks. He taught them a lot. But there's 3 things in particular I want to focus on, Detroit. Now, I don't care if Willie Lynch existed or not, that's irrelevant. Because the science is exact. It's like for people who beat up on the Bible. The Bible teaches a lot of profound spiritual truths. It uses metaphors to do so. Now, if you want to believe that Moses actually parted the ocean, that's your psychological hang-up. But for me, it is a symbolic spiritual truth. I don't go to the Bible for history. I go to the Bible to inspire me. See, we need education. But you know what black folks need more than education? You need inspiration. Because your spirit is depressed. Black people suffer from a tranquilizing pessimism that keeps us from doing together. You notice whenever you want to do something right, somebody tell you it won't work. And my elders, I love my elders, but some of you are the first to tell us how you did the same thing in your day and it didn't work. Stop killing the spirit of the next generation. Just because you did it don't mean you did it right. Or even if you did it right, maybe now it's the right time. Because I don't believe just that the leaders got to lead. I think the people got to be ready for the leaders when they come. Yes, sir. If Dr. King was here today, would he succeed? If Marcus Garvey was here today, would he succeed? The Negro mind is not what it was when they were here. And just like the old quote says, when the people are ready, when the people are ready, the teacher will appear. We have to forge a new black collective consciousness that supersedes petty differences in Detroit. Because y'all hung up. We all hung up. From Los Angeles to Lagos, Nigeria. From the Bahamas to Birmingham, England, wherever I go, I got to do a meeting with black folks fighting over nonsense. skin color, education, religion, political philosophy. We have no forgiveness for each other, but all the forgiveness for white folks. I keep hearing Negroes say we got to forgive white folks for slavery, but you won't forgive your next door neighbor for taking your parking spot. You know why you don't want to invest in you? What's the main reason black folks don't want to invest in ourselves? Because you consider us to be worthless. You only invest in things that you value. And because you don't value black life, you'd rather invest in something outside of it. We got to change the mindset. The first thing Willie Lynch taught was you got to take the tongue of your African slaves, force them to speak English. Don't let them speak that Zulu, that Tweet, that Swahili, that Igbo, that Xhosa. Don't let them. Because when people speak their native language, they will still behave like they did as natives. They will never forget who they were before you found them. You cannot make a slave who knows who he is. But the slave master didn't listen. Slave master said, if I catch you reading, I'll take that finger off. I catch you writing, I'll slice your thumb. These were real punishments, by the way. You ever see pictures of enslaved Africans? He said, why are all his fingers missing? 9 times out of 10, that was an African who was trying to read. Which is why you have to stop this multicultural, we all one family stuff. Because that's what they're using to push the black agenda off the table. Because everybody's eating off of you, but nobody wants to eat with you. Multiculturalism. We don't have nothing in common with nobody. We built this damn country, not the Arabs, not the East Indians, not the Mexicans, not the white folks. I built America. I get special treatment because I did. I'm the only people in the history of this country. I'm the only people in the history of this world who served as a slave and yet was not considered to be a human being. Do you know that? Because white folks are quick to tell you that we were all slaves. What they crying about? That's true. A lot of human groups the British were slaves to the Germans. It's true. But nobody was ever stripped of their humanity but you. And you've been stripped of it so long, you still behave like an animal. We're the only people in the world whose slavery allowed the master to own your entire family in perpetuity. He didn't just own you, he owned the baby in your stomach. Mothers, could you imagine that? You got a baby growing in your tummy and the master tells you that I can't wait for it to get here because I already got an offer of $500 for it. Y'all forget that. They didn't just own you, they owned the grandkids and the great-grandkids. And when they died, the grandkids became your master. How do you own an entire lineage of people? Never before until the white man. And your Ma'afa was the only one where the whole world benefited and nobody did a damn thing about it. You're trying to blend in. You better learn how to stand out. I don't want to make too much noise. That's the quickest way to be ignored. And being ignored is the path to extermination. So because we didn't learn the white man's language, we kept our own. Which means that even now in Detroit, most of you in this auditorium, you don't speak English, you speak Ebonics. African tongue. You just use English words.
I think so.
The vernacular is European, but the expression is African. The rhythm is African. The structure is African. The philosophy is African. Let me explain. When white people teach, they teach, or they talk rather with consonants at the end of most words. They will say, Miss Slurbanowski is going to have supper with us. tonight at McDonald's. But in most African languages from which we come, especially on the west side of the continent, the words end in vowels that blend smoothly together. So when blacks in Detroit are ready to go and eat, you don't say we are preparing for supper. You say we fixing to get sunny. You see how articulate that is? Our words blend together because it reflects the rhythmic nature of African culture itself. Another difference between European tongue and African tongue. Europeans believe that only one person should talk at a time. Because the culture is vertical, not horizontal. So you must wait until I'm done and then you talk. That's not African. That's why you love cutting each other off. Because our culture is participatory, and so is the language. So if I'm talking and I can't come up with the word, but my queen feels my vibe, she will jump in where I'm right at, stuck, and she will finish off what I had to say. Which takes me to the third difference between white language and African language. White language respects communication of the idea and the thought. African language, we respect effective communication of the idea and the thought, but there's something deeper for us. We're looking not to understand what you said. We are looking to understand what exactly did you mean by what you said. For black people, it is not what you say, but what you meant. We're not listening for words, we're listening for the vibration behind the words. So when somebody talk to us, and they say, did you understand me? You say, I understand what you said, but I felt what your hating ass meant. In fact, we so spiritually in tune, we can know what you're about to say before you say it because of the vibration. This is why your blood pressure is so high. This is why you suffer from hypertension. You want to know why? Because within the confines of white European law, you cannot prove racism unless you can prove psychological intent. So most of us get angry and happen to live in a system when you know somebody don't like you. Because you can feel with your spidey senses that they don't like you. But when you go to court to prove that this happened because I'm black, they ask you to prove racist intent. And because African culture is based on truth, it makes us sick to our stomach to have to deal in a reality that says if you can't prove it, it don't exist. And because if you can't prove it, it don't exist, it's allowed to persist. And the next thing you know, you develop an assist. Your thoughts become things. You better learn how to control them. There is no disease in the body without a psychological component that goes with it. To do better, you got to think better. You got to eat better. You got to exercise better. And you got to choose your friends better. And then Willie Lynn said that you got to put petty differences amongst blacks. And then the last thing he said was you got to destroy the black woman's respect for the black man. He said, go and get the biggest buck you can find. The biggest, meanest black stallion, man, and bring him out in front of the black women and children. He said, beat that man down to within an inch of his life. Don't kill the African, but beat him so bad that he will wish he was dead. Make the women look at him. Make the children look at that disgraced black man who they once respected. After you beat him down, tar and feather him, strap one leg to one horse facing east and another leg to another horse facing west. Beat both horses at the same time until they split that Negro's body in two. And the respect the black man, the black woman once had for the black man, it will be replaced with contempt. The honor the black woman once had for the black man will be replaced with disrespect. In fact, the black woman will be so tired of seeing the black man reduced to nothing that she might endeavor to become a black man herself. And Willie Lynn said the greatest effect of this is that that black baby boy that is developing in her stomach, she'll be so afraid that he'll lose his life like his daddy did, that she won't raise him as a boy, she'll raise him as a girl. Public schools are designed to feminize black boys. And the number one purpose of public school is to teach black boys that you have no power within this system. That's right. Schools are about socialization, not education. Your son can't read, but he know white folks are in charge. Your daughter can't spell, but she knows she better never say nothing against George Washington or Thomas Jefferson, even though they own hundreds of slaves. Your child can't write, but they know every word of the Star-Spangled Banner. Detroit schools ain't here to teach, they're here to indoctrinate. I said public education is a religion. And to graduate, you have to be a good regurgitator. Why is math so difficult for black children? You know why math is so difficult for black children? Because it's the only subject you cannot pass with memorization and regurgitation. You can get straight A's in school knowing nothing. All you have to do is memorize and regurgitate. But with math, you have to understand the concept. And then you have to apply the concept. So you think your child has a math disability when he really has a lazy disability. And you mothers, stop calling me up talking about why is it taking my son 5 hours to get his homework done. The reason it's taking your son 5 hours to get his homework done is because you let him take 5 hours to get his homework. My single black mothers, I commend you for the job you've done raising our sons without the daddy home. But I need you to do a better job. Because some of you are turning your sons into the exact type of man that you yourself would never want to marry. He's a shiftless, lazy, unmotivated, don't want to go to school, no after-school job, having Negro. How are we going to get better men for the women if you ain't making none? And black man, you need to be helping these sisters who raising these boys on their own to stop walking by them like it's their problem. It's our problem. And you should be willing to be a father figure for that young man without looking for no quid pro quo cookies in return. Barack Obama just signed the Emmett Till Act. Barack Obama just signed the Emmett Till Act. What is the Emmett Till Act? He's authorized the United States Justice Department to go and investigate any hate crime or civil rights abuse against minorities. This ain't just about you. And black folks going crazy. There's only one problem with the Emmett Till Act. What's the one problem with the Emmett Till Act? You're not allowed to investigate any case that happened after 1980. So they can't go back and look at Tom Mayer. They can't go back. Yes, Obama effectively protected the police. This is what black folks do. That's why y'all need to stop clapping when laws get passed until you understand the fine details of the law. Brothers and sisters, if you have children between the ages of 11 and 17, I have the second annual Black College and Consciousness Tour. Mark your calendars, June 28th to July the 12th. June 28th to July the 12th, 14 days and 14 nights with your 11 through 17-year-old boys and girls. Last year, we left from New Jersey. We took them to the Malcolm and Betty Shabazz Center, which is the Audubon where Malcolm was murdered. We took them to the world-famous Apollo Theater. We took them to Ferncliff Cemetery to pour libations at the grave of Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. Malcolm X, James Baldwin, Paul Robeson, Dr. Yusuf Ben Yakinen, young Malcolm Shabazz, they're all in the same cemetery. And then we took them up to Auburn, New York, to the Harriet Tubman house where she lived. And then we poured libation at her grave and went over to Rochester and did the same at Frederick Douglass's grave in New York. And then we came down to Philadelphia to the Black African Holocaust Museum, the only museum in America dedicated to our enslavement. And then we came on down to Baltimore. Well, before Baltimore, we hit up Lincoln and Cheney, our two oldest HBCUs. And then we came to Baltimore, we did Coppin and Morgan and Bowie. And then we did the Great Blacks and Wax Museum, the Harriet Tubman Hometown Tour in Bucktown, the Underground Railroad Tour Eastern Shore. And then we came to the Benjamin Banneker House. And then we did Howard University. And then we went on down to Jerusalem, Virginia, where on August the 21st, 1831, a black preacher, on my birthday, August the 21st of 1831, a black preacher said God inspired him to slay your enemies, to slay the serpent with his own weapons. And they went from house to house, Hark, Will, Travis, Nat, and they eliminated anything white they came across. Birds, mice, ticks, fleas. Nat was captured, and before they marched Nat across the street to hang him on 11/11, November 11th, perfect synchronicity. The man who interviewed Nat turned and said, "You said God told you to do this. Well, you have been captured. Wouldn't you have to agree that your God has failed you?" And Nat Turner looked up and said, "No, sir. Even Jesus Christ had to be crucified." When they caught Denmark Vesey in Richmond, Virginia, the year Nat was born, 1800, when Denmark Vesey was pronounced guilty of inspiring a slave revolt, and they told him, "Do you have any last words?" He said, "Yeah. Only thing I'm asking for is for my execution to be delayed so I can die with my brothers." Brothers and sisters, we don't come from cowardly people. We come from people who went to their death gladly so you could live. And then we went to Dorney Park and Great Adventures, and we played paintball in the park, and we went to the movies, and we ate at different restaurants, and at the evening in the hotel room, brothers and sisters, we did seminars on different things that's important for our kids doing well in school: peer pressure, fatherlessness, conflict resolution, white supremacy, African history and culture. That was last year. This year we leave it from Atlanta, so you got to get your child to Atlanta. You can fly in Amtrak, Megabus, Greyhound. Atlanta, we're going to do the South Tour. Now we're going to do Morehouse, Clark, Spelman, We're going to do the Dr. King Center, the Oyotunji African Village, the Charleston Civil War Trail, the South Carolina Slavery Tour, the National Civil Rights Museum, the Selma Holocaust Museum, the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, the George Washington Carver Museum at Tuskegee. If you got a son or daughter between 11 and 17, I pray to God you didn't spend all that money on Christmas gifts. Because your son or daughter need to be with Dr. Umar this summer, getting that black college, black consciousness experience, becoming unapologetically African. But let me say this, Detroit. Don't send your child with me this summer unless you're ready for them to be revolutionized. Because I promise you that 11 and 12-year-old boy will come back home, kick open your door, and say, Mama, take that weave off your damn head! He'll be snatching down all the white Jesus pictures in the house, making smart bombs out of perm buckets. Black man, you got a white woman, your son is going to ask you why you're not with an African queen. So if I can do that in 14 days, imagine what we'll be doing with 180 when we get that Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. Brothers and sisters, I've made up my mind. The first day of school will be August the 21st, 2018. Rain, sleet, snow, or shine. We got 600 days. 2017, we must find the school. 2018, we will open the school. And you know what's so ironic? Baba the year Nat Turner led his revolt. There were 2 eclipses. This coming year, 2017, not only is there an eclipse in February the same year as Nat, there's an eclipse in August the same month as Nat, and the lunar eclipse in 2017 is on August the 21st. So even the stars have lined up with us. And we're going to get FDMG. But until we do, parents, remember, every Tuesday morning, I host a free Black Parent Teleconference. If you got your phone or pen and paper, I'm going to give you the number. If you ever have a question about your son or daughter, you can call in and ask Dr. Umar any question, education or mental health. 6 to 8, it's free, no excuses, and the number is 857-232-0158. Shame on you if you have babies and you ain't writing this number down. 857, I'm sorry, thank you, Mama. Looking like Mary J. Blige down there.
I'm dead.
857-232-0158. The access code, 870-864-pound. Access code, 870-864-pound. Phone number once more, 857-232-0158. Never again in Detroit will I hear one of y'all say they wanted to do something to my children and I didn't have nobody to go to. Never again will you tell me they wanted you to put that boy on medicine and you didn't know what to do. Never again will you say your son was brought up for expulsion and you had nobody to turn to. I've been doing this for 3-4 years every Tuesday except when I'm traveling. So you always got Dr. Umar if you ain't got nobody else. Yes. 6 to 8, Tuesday morning, Eastern Standard Time. 857-232-0158. 870-864-pound. Now I'm going to give you my cell in case some of you have learning disabilities and you weren't able to get the full number. You can text me for it, and I'll send you the full number in code. My number is 215-989-9858. I repeat, 215-989-9858. Once more, 215-989-9858. Brothers and sisters, y'all know I started the National Independent Black Parent Association in Baltimore this past May. We had our second conference in Houston this past September. We're having our third conference in San Diego next month, Friday and Saturday, January 27th and 28th, and I hope to God that some of you from Detroit care enough about our children to meet us at the Black-owned World Beat Cultural Center in San Diego for 2 days so you can get that training from Dr. Umar Johnson and come back and help Sister Julie, who's the host tonight, run that Detroit chapter. Where you at, Sister Jules? Raise your hand. Where's she at? She stepped out. But if you want to be down with the Parent Association, 7 committees, Detroit. Special ed, to keep our kids out of special ed. How many black kids in special ed in Detroit? How long are they in? What are the schools doing with the special ed money? Because you know special ed is a business. You know special ed is a racket. You know special ed is a hustle. Do you know every time I put a kid in special ed, the school gets a welfare check at the end of the month? Special ed is money, baby. One kid is worth $7,000. How much is 7,000 kids worth? How many black kids in special ed in Detroit? What is that bill and budget? We got to get organized. How many black kids were suspended from school in Detroit last year? How many were expelled from school last year? We're going to have a homeschool committee. Who wants to homeschool their children but need some help? We got to organize all these hands in here. And then we're going to have a parent advocacy committee so some of you can be trained with the knowledge to accompany any parent into a school meeting when they have to go, because you don't go alone. And then there will be a social support committee to help our parents, an economic committee to investigate how they spend the money, and a policy committee to change the rules. Marcus Garvey said, the greatest weapon used against the Negro is this organization. Stokely Carmichael said, if you organize a little, you get a little done. You organize some, you get some done. If you don't organize at all, you don't get anything done. Brothers and sisters, if you've never been to Africa, you know I take a trip there 2 weeks every summer. This past summer, we did South Africa and Senegal. They loved it. This coming summer, 2 weeks, last week in July, first week in August. Last week in July, first week in August, we're going to do East Africa. I'm working on Kenya, Malawi, Uganda, Tanzania, or Ethiopia. We're going to do 2. Because there's a lot of history on the east side that we don't really study. I don't like to do too much Egypt and too much Ghana, although we do them because those are the only 2 countries most Hoteppers know about. Africa is 2 countries, Ghana and Egypt. If some of you want to go to Africa with me for 90 days, I know I'm working on a repatriation task force. For those of y'all who really committed, we're going to Africa for 90 days straight. You got to be able to be 90 days. We're going to live there. We're going to investigate. You will be on the economic team to study economics. You will be on the medical team to study the medical care. You might be on the religious team to study the religious institutions. You might be on the business team to research import and export. Yes? And then we're going to do what? Pull our money together and buy about 200 acres of land. And we're going to start building a community for Africans who want to go back to Africa. Who's ready to quit America right now? Who said, I'm tired of this. I need a new credit score. I'm ready to go to Africa. We're going to do it. So I'm working on it, family. Listen up. If everything goes right, we'll be going in October of 2017. I will keep you posted. Remember, you got to go for 90. We're going to live together. We're going to get temporary housing. I got an architect in Kenya. I got people in Lesotho, Ghana, Nigeria. I got to choose the country we want to do. But if you're ready, start saving your money. We're going to try to set it up so you ain't got to spend too much while you're there. Just pay for your flight and maybe your communications. Everything else we want to do as a village and as a family. Some of y'all won't go, and I promise you, you won't come back. I'm willing to bet that at least 20 of you will not come back after you dead. On that 90th day, when it's time to go home, you're going to say, Doc, I'm straight. But I'm going to tell you, you have to go over there with your African mind. Ladies, you ain't got to be natural now, but you have to be natural then. Fellas, you cannot bring your non-African queens with you to this. No basketballs or cell phones or video games. We're going to help, not to hurt and condition. So you got to have your African mind, but this is serious. We haven't had a major repatriation task force since Garvey. We're about to do it, and you're invited to be a part of that. Last but not least, many of you heard about the fiasco that has taken place between myself and a brother from your city. And I want to say to you here and now that I love my brother. And although I was attacked without cause, I could have handled my response in a much more professional way.
Right now, people love.
So I apologize to those of you who support me who felt disappointed. And I apologize to our children and our elders. But there's one group of you I don't apologize to. And that would be those Negroes who made memes. Really? Who in the hell put my face on Hulk Hogan and my brother on the Ultimate Warrior?
I'm dead.
And then I saw another one where he's in my book bag. And then I saw another one where we on Gilligan's Island. We was twins. Who got time? It's only been 2 days. But those of you who follow the conscious community, which ain't too conscious at all, y'all know I called for a meeting of the elders, right? And it doesn't seem like they have stepped up, and I can understand because I don't know what they're going through, respectfully. But because I am who I am, and many people consider me to be one of those at the forefront, I'm going to go ahead and call an International Consciousness Convention in New York City. And it's going to last about 3 or 4 days. And I'm going to do it probably the end of Black History Month. So mark your calendars. Please follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook so you can get the updates. In fact, tomorrow morning, if you're not busy, at 9 a.m., 9 is the number of the ancestors because it represents the pregnant womb. I will be doing a Facebook Live to reconcile with the community and to announce this conference. So if you're up at 9, go to my Facebook page, which is Dr. Umar Ifatunde. Ifatunde is a Yoruba name that was given to me when I received my first spiritual reading at the Oyotunji African village, and it means destiny has returned. And Ifatunde is spelled I-F-A-T-U-N-D-E. I-F-A-T-U-N-D-E. Dr. Umar Ifatunde. The profile pic is Charlemagne and myself from the Breakfast Club interview. Make sure you're on the right page because there's about 10 Dr. Umar Facebook pages that are operated by the CIA, FBI, Homeland Security, the Donald Trump transition team, and the Dusty Hotepper community.
I'm dead.
Brothers and sisters, as I close Detroit, I want to say again that I will be back in 2 weeks or 3, the 19th and 20th, to look at some of y'all schools. Please continue to donate to the fundraiser. Of course, GoFundMe.com/Dr. Umar. If you don't want to donate online, we have envelopes in the back. You can take one with you or leave your donation payable to FDMG. Or you can mail it into FDMG. Text me for the address, which is P.O. Box 6872, Philadelphia, PA 19132. If you think I would ever keep a penny from our children, then you don't understand me. I'm a psychologist. I don't need to steal from you. I do fine on my own. If I got to steal after 6 degrees, we have a real problem on our hands. But I hope that school is here. But I do plan to look at schools in Atlanta when I get there the day after tomorrow. And I have schools in North Carolina to look at. And I was just talking last night to some friends of mine. I said, what if it comes down to Atlanta and Detroit? That's a decision that I'm not going to make. If I got to make that decision, I'm going to the priest and he's going to have to do a divination. Because if I choose y'all, ATL going to get me. And if I choose ATL, y'all going to get me. I'm going to have 30 more memes. But hopefully it's Motown. And if I get here, brothers and sisters, we going to get serious because we ain't just opening no school. The school is the front. That's the safe part. But then we going to tie up a couple blocks. Because we need that supermarket, and we need a manufacturer, and we need a strip mall. And we need to have our own Black Wall Street once a month where every black business in Michigan is in the same place all day long so we can support it. Allow me to close with my favorite quote, and then we'll do our line for pictures and book signing. But let me, before I say that, say this. We have a lot of vendors who have come out tonight. My brother Henry, who flew in with his queen all the way from Phoenix, Arizona. And we got brothers and sisters from across the country who have come here tonight. Now, you spend $4 billion on Christmas with everybody but black folks. I'm asking every one of you tonight to show some economic love to us. If you can buy one thing from every vendor, great. If you can buy one thing from 3 vendors, excellent. But please, before you leave that door, buy at least one thing from one vendor. They are in the hallway as well as in this room, and most of them do take credit card. And for those of you who have not read my book, please get a copy at the back table. They're 20, and you need every page of information inside. If you read that book, you will become your own parent advocate. I'll have a whole chapter on how to deal with disruptive behavior without medicine. A whole chapter on ADHD. A whole chapter on frequently asked questions. A whole chapter on the emotional disturbance if you're raising a child who has not graduated from school yet, and you ain't read my book, you ain't ready for the school system. We got I Am Nat Turner shirts on sale. Now, I know that might be too black for some of y'all. But if you buy a book, the shirt is only $10. If you buy the shirt without a book, it is $20. There's also DVDs back there. Show love, because y'all don't know this, but most of your money goes to the college tour, not me. Most of your money going to go to the FDMG fund. That money gets used to fly me around the country to look at these schools. That money is going to go to this repatriation task force. That money is going to all the projects we working on, family. People say, why he charging for us to come and get the information? Because I can't get a loan from Wells Fargo, nor am I interested. Frederick Douglass said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and deprecate agitation are like men who want crops without blowing up the ground. They want rain but can't stand the thunder or the lightning. They want the ocean, but they scared of the roar of the water. He said the struggle we have might be moral or physical, but it must be a struggle. He said, for 20 years I prayed on my knees to God for freedom. But the good Lord gave me no freedom until I got up off my knees and started praying with my feet. He said, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. I'm going to call on my ancestors. Ancestors! They say I'm not related to you, ancestors. They say I don't have a doctorate degree, ancestors. They say my name ain't Umar Johnson, ancestors. They even say my mama white, ancestors. The whole Teppers is crazy. But we're going to square it out in New York at the end of February at that international conference. And if some of you want to be volunteers, the sign up will be coming soon. If you want to come to New York and volunteer with Dr. Umar, and you put it on your resume, you ain't got to let them know that it was me. The first of my family brought to America was a black man named Bailey, stolen from West Africa, taken to Talbot County, Maryland. He married a black woman named Selah, for whom my 5-year-old baby is named. They had Grandma Jenny in 1745. She had Grandma Betsy in 1774, 2 years before the Declaration of Independence. She was born a slave, but she married a free black man, Grandpa Isaac. They had 12 children. One daughter was named Harriet, another daughter was named Young Betsy. These two sisters were raped by Aaron Anthony, the Irishman who owned our family. As a result, Aunt Harriet gave birth to the greatest black leader in American history. His name was Fred Bailey. But at the age of 20, Fred Bailey said he had enough. He ran away from Talbot County, changed his name from Fred Bailey to Fred Douglass to hide his identity on the fugitive slave trail. Well, the next day, his aunt, my 5 times great-grandmother, Young Betsy, was raped by the master, giving birth to Frederick's half-brother and first cousin, Stephen Bailey, my 4 times great-grandfather. They were brothers because the slave master raped their mothers, but they was cousins because the mothers were sisters. Grandpa Stephen married Grandma Caroline, both slaves. They had Grandpa George, my 3 times great-grandfather, in 1841, the first black public school teacher in Maryland. I know he here with me. He married Grandma Annie. They had Grandma Caroline. She moved to Philadelphia. She had Grandma Vivian. She married a Spanish-speaking Cuban immigrant, Grandpa Cicero. They had Grandma Ida. She met James Johnson and had Jamal. And he met Barbara in Philadelphia. And so history took its place. They baked the cookie. And on August the 21st, the anniversary of Nat Turner, George Jackson, and the Haitian Revolution, Umar Johnson was born in North Philadelphia to do one thing: give my enemies hell and liberate my people. Detroit, call on your ancestors. Detroit, ride with me. Detroit, Marcus Garvey said, without confidence in self, you are twice defeated in the race of life, but with confidence you have won, even before you started. Dr. Umar in Detroit will always be family. One God, one aim, one destiny. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
All right now.
Thank you. Support the vendors. We're going to do the line up the middle or the far left. Start up here. If you want to come take a picture or get your book signed,